G'day mates, welcome back to my YouTube channel. In today's video, I'm covering everything you need to know about OCE competitive and all the big storylines that are developing, because there's some massive ones. We have MrFreshAsian taking this FNCS probably more seriously than I've seen him take one in seasons. He's been scrimming almost every single night, finally has a drop spot outfit, but then you compare this to the X2Twins who haven't scrimmed in 2 weeks, have absolutely no idea where they're going, and honestly, I asked them on stream, don't even look like they're taking it seriously at all. We also have our ex-FNCS champions from last season, Jynx, Alecc, and Worthy, have one of the best drops uncontested, looking like Jynx is going to win his 4th FNCS, but unfortunately running into some big issues. He's had to move houses to another state, which is causing him a whole bunch of connection issues. He doesn't even have internet in the house. He's having to play on mobile devices, all kinds of crazy. So I'm going to cover everything you need to know, because we have FNCS in pretty much just over a week. I'm going to kick off today's video by saying a lot of these drop spots are changing up. Even right now, we've had a massive shift in OCE competitive. Volx, Sorif, and Sync have decided to leave Slurpee and go to Steamy, which is causing a bunch of issues. It's got a ripple effect where so many teams are trying to figure out their drop spots. So I'm going to make another video like this closer to FNCS with everyone's confirmed drop spots. But there were so many big storylines developing in OCE that have changed since the last video I made. I really wanted to address it in today's video and cover exactly what's going on as of right now. So let's start off by talking about the big name, MrFreshAsian, because I know a bunch of you guys have been curious about what's going on in OCE. It's too late for a lot of you guys to watch the scrim, so it's been quite hard to follow, but the story of Fresh this season's actually been really good. Like I said in the intro, he's been taking scrims way more seriously than he has in the last few seasons. He's playing with Rel and Newbatoon, and Rel would be a very common name that you're used to hearing. It's actually who Fresh played with in the last trio FNCS with Jynx when they performed insanely well. Rel is taking that IGL role and really leading the team phenomenally, and I think maybe due to having a friendly face, someone that Fresh is really enjoying playing with, and the addition of Newbatoon, he's been playing scrims pretty much every single night they're on, to the point where he was able to alpha a team out of Holly Hedges. Again, I talked about in my last video how it's not the most strong drop on the map, but they now have it completely uncontested, and they even claimed Rainbow Rentals. So when you talk about Holly Hedges with Rainbow Rentals, and you have the Viking ship with guaranteed P90, no one on their team's a controller player, but still a decent advantage to have, it's a really solid drop. They can get enough quests out of there to get a couple of gold upgrades. They don't have the guaranteed upgrade NPC, unfortunately, but still a strong drop. And like I said, the main thing to talk about here is how much better Fresh and his team is getting coming into this FNCS. You compare last FNCS, where it was all drama, griefing, splitting up with teams, finding new teammates, dropping on old teammates who played with new teams. It was all crazy. This FNCS is looking completely different. They're looking very strong. They're figuring out a very solid gameplay, and it's showing. In the last Trio Cash Cup, I know it's not as the same as FNCS, it's more of a W key format, but they managed to come 3rd place overall, picking them up some prize money and playing insanely well together. If you've watched any of them streaming scrims, Rel and Fresh has both been streaming them. You can tell it's on the back of Rel taking this really seriously. Every time I watch them, they have a very set game plan. Where are they going to find their surge? Where are they going to rotate? How are they going to get next zone? He's really taking charge as that more mature, older IGL he's always been in OCE, and they're looking really solid because of it. Fresh, obviously playing the amount of Fortnite that he does, has always got the good mechanics when it comes to aim and fighting people. Sometimes can fall a little bit behind, not smashing out creative as much, but you don't need those kind of skills as much in competitive, especially in trios. If you've got good aim and you've got a good game plan to overcome things like Storm Surge and early and mid game rotations where Fresh usually struggles, they're looking insane. Not to mention, Newbatoon is your normal, typical, young, insane mech fragger. This kid hits headshots like nobody else, which right now is an incredibly strong talent to have. If you have a good sniper on your team, I mean, just look at EU with Thomas HD. Your team is just set up for so much more success when it comes to taking off pressure on rotates. If you have no rotational items, a team's holding you, a well-placed snipe not only gets you Storm Surge, but it gets you positional advantages as well. So I've got really good hope for this team, way more than I did in Fresh's team last season coming into Trio FNCS. So I really hope they can back it up and we see Fresh back on top, because last season was a big disappointment. That was the first time Fresh didn't even make grand finals of an FNCS. Now, following that up with two names you're used to hearing very close behind Fresh when anyone talks about OCE, the other big names on the block, the X2Twins. Now, I'm used to talking about them as one of the teams to look out for and talking about them competitively. They've always had a big following and been big into content, but they always took tournaments seriously, and tournaments came first. If you're a fan of the X2Twins, if you subscribe to their YouTube or watch their streams, you know they've been kind of lacking when it comes to competitive. They just haven't been taking it as seriously. They're having a massive thriving stream and YouTube career right now off different games, playing Rocket League, Valorant, Rust, and just having a good time. And I've been wondering how that's going to affect their competitive Fortnite, and it looks like it already is in the sense that they don't even know where they're dropping. We have 9 days out from FNCS. They haven't played scrims for over 2 weeks, and they don't have a drop spot at all. But they don't seem to care too much. I'll roll on the clip of their response when I ask them how are they feeling for FNCS.
At X2Twins, what is your guys' plan for FNCS drop? I think we're gonna go up mid. We're gonna hit the B, the B push. I get it. Yeah, I think we just gotta fake A Aussie, and then Squeeze should bring bomb mid, flash with Reyna.
I think Squeaks is gonna come in with the AWP.
And then maybe we do like a green only challenge in there too.
I think we're going Pleasant. But we haven't scrimmed for 2 weeks. So...
As you can see, like I just said, they're laughing, they're joking around, they're even making Valorant references to how they're going to play FNCS, admitting they're just really not taking it that seriously. They have an insane third with Squeaks, who normally does take competitive quite seriously, but they haven't scrimmed with him and he hasn't been really playing the game at all either. So I don't know how they're going to go. Making finals or at least heats for OCE is not going to be incredibly difficult, with us having 4 heats for a region that literally doesn't even have 400 good teams. 400 good players. We can literally only fill grand finals of good teams. There is, I would say, 100 pretty decent players in OCE, 50 really solid players. So when it comes down to 4 heats, I think just their pure mechanics and competitive experience will carry them through heats at least to grand finals, but that might be where they start to struggle. But then again, they said they've still got plenty of time. There's 9 days left until FNCS starts, and then you have the 3 weeks. So maybe during the weeks, they start gearing it up and taking it more seriously. It would be quite sad to see the X2Twins and Squeaks not in the grand finals, or just not taking it as seriously as they could. But again, I mean, all you got to do is look at the OCE prize pool and fully understand why. If they're enjoying other games, they're making content that pops off, and they're having a good time, I don't blame them. They've been playing competitive Fortnite since the absolute beginning, and they've been grinding it out up until this season. They've always been scrimming every night, playing every tournament, so I don't blame them. Moving on to the biggest names when it comes to OCE competitive, of course, is Jynx, Alecc, and Worthy. Your last FNCS champions. Jynx, who is a 3 times FNCS champion, the only person in the world who has that title, looking to make it 4, and things were looking strong. They are still by far the best trio in OCE, in my opinion. They just have the raw skill of 3 of the best players. You put them together, they have insane chemistry, and they have a proven track record of dominating in OCE. Unfortunately, though, a bit of a spanner in the works that I didn't see coming. Jynx, again, one of the star players, 3 times FNCS champion, has had to move from Sydney to Queensland. Now, if you don't know Australian geography too well, I'm not going to blame you. Sydney is where the servers are. Queensland is about 10 to 15 hours north. It does give you about 20 to 30 ping. That's where the Twins play out of, which again, I know what you're thinking. Going from 0 ping to 20 to 30, yeah, it's going to hurt a little bit, but it's not going to completely destroy you. But that's the thing. He's not just moving further away. He's moved into a new house and he's having massive internet issues. I know this might not be a thing for a lot of people in the world, especially America, but Australian internet is terrible. For the first year of my content creation career, I had to stream and play off mobile data, and that's exactly what Jynx has to do now. He is basically resorting to having to play off his phone, or he has to get a mobile satellite device. Now, not only does this massively increase your ping because you don't have a set line to your house, so he's going to be getting more towards 30 to 40, it is really, really inconsistent. You will get massive spikes. You can have things affected by weather. If there's clouds, if there's a storm, it can completely drop out or give you next to no speeds. You have to pay for the data by the gigabit, so it's going to cost a ridiculous amount just to play. So things are really not looking good for Jynx at this point. I DM'd him to talk about it. He said he's playing off mobile data. He is getting about 40 to 50 ping with 5+ ping spikes of over 200 every single game. All that's going to take is a bad time trying to hold a wall, trying to rotate, trying to finish off the final player in the FNCS Grand Final, and it's going to cost you the game. I'm really hoping he can get a technician out and get it sorted. He said that he's hoping they can run it through quickly, but some people's installations have been pushed back to May where he lives. So I don't really know what this means for this team as it stands. They are still playing, they are still scrimming, they do still have Dirty Docks uncontested as the best drop on the map. I really hope they can somehow make it work. Maybe Jynx can find something like an office space or an internet cafe or something, because I really don't want to see arguably the best player in OCE just not really being able to play properly. There's nothing worse than dying because of lag or a technical issue that you just can't control. Like I said, I'm going to do another video in about a week's time or in a few days after watching a bunch of the CPL scrims, which is OCE Pro scrims. If you want to swing by my stream or you're up late at night, twitch.tv/Aussie Antics, I'm going to try and watch a bunch of them over the next few nights to really gather what's going on, because a bunch of teams are shifting. But there are some really, really good teams that you need to look out for that do have their drop spots who are looking very, very scary, and any of them are contenders to win. You obviously have Volx, who is now playing with Sync and Sorif, which are maybe two names outside of OCE you're not too familiar with. This team is looking like one of the strongest in my opinion. You obviously know Volx from playing with the Twins. Insanely good player, ridiculous fragger, ridiculously aggressive, but normally needs someone to kind of temper him down and lead him a little bit more. That usually falls onto Sync and Sorif, who both in their respective rights for most teams they play for, both play as the IGL or the in-game leader. They usually are very, very smart, incredibly calm players, and I think that's leaning towards Volx as well. I mean, if you watch them, it is pure content. They're screaming, having a good time, but when it comes to the game, they are very methodical and doing ridiculous things over in OCE. They did have Slurpee completely on lockdown. They had the drop uncontested. They were vibing, and they've decided to go to Steamy, which I'm a little bit surprised by. Slurpee is a ridiculously good drop when it comes to shield. You could maybe say Steamy's as good. I probably wouldn't even say it's better, but when you have to go from having Slurpee uncontested to now contested Steamy, I really don't know if it's worth it. Volx has said he clearly thinks it is, especially on an ammo perspective, which does make sense. I guess Steamy would have more ammo crates and maybe just more loot in general. Slurpee obviously has the advantage of being able to break the shield barrel so you don't have to use any shield, so you're walking away with max meds. It also has the fishing holes, but now that they've taken Rift Fish out of the game, I guess maybe you could say fishing has been nerfed a little bit, but from what I'm seeing, heal off is very much still the meta, and floppers is definitely going to play into that, so I trust them. Like I said, very smart players who really know what they're talking about. I'm pretty sure after talking to them tonight, they've almost already alphaed Steamy. They've pushed the team out and they said they might be coming back, but they're not sure. So, I mean, that just says everything you need to know about the team. They can go to a drop spot that's established and within one night have it to themselves. The other team that is looking incredibly scary, and if you watch the OCE Cash Cup, you've definitely heard about, is Tyraxe, Repulse, and Forbes. Now, Repulse and Forbes is pretty much two of the scariest fighters in OCE. When you think about them in comparison to other regions, you're thinking of like Noah Riley, Vidil, Rezon. They are just two ridiculous fighters. Repulse, argued by many to be one of the most mechanical fighters in OCE, just ridiculous aggression. If you watched last FNCS, he was the one that on day 2 had a ridiculous comeback to almost win the FNCS, just playing so aggressive and so dominant. Pair him with Forbes, who is arguably the best controller player in OCE, and you do have a massive recipe for success. Now, they were paired up with Tui as their IGL, an older player you maybe have heard of from Duo's FNCS, popped off leading Alecc and really just kind of made a name for himself as a more calm, more methodical IGL. He was unfortunately dropped, or they decided to part ways, and they replaced him with Tyraxe. Tyraxe is again a ridiculously good fighter who is insanely mechanical. So when you have 3 fighters like that, you have what happened in the Cash Cup, where they dropped over 260 points and just ran through everybody. I don't know what that's going to mean for FNCS and Grand Finals. I mean, OCE heats and qualifiers are basically going to be a pub stomp as well. It's going to be a bit more stacked, don't get me wrong. There's going to be probably more Storm Surge to worry about, but at the same time, it's not going to be that level of stacked the Grand Finals are, so it'll be interesting to see how they at least handle it though. They're coming out of Misty Meadows, and I messaged them again tonight as well. For the most part, it looks like they're uncontested unless anyone swaps up and tries to go for them, but that's a very, very scary team to fight on spawn. If you're looking at an OCE map, where am I going to go? Who am I going to fight? Probably one of the last spots you want to go, so I've got really, really high hopes for them as well. The last team I wanted to talk about that I have high hopes for coming into this FNCS is Luda, Muz, and Speedy. Obviously, you probably heard of this team, Speedy and Muz, playing with Radius last FNCS. One of my top 3 picks to win it, and they performed really, really well. Unfortunately, Radius, as insane at the game as he is, he's been around since the start, does have a tendency to not take competitively as seriously. There were straight up tournaments that he just slept through, so replacing him with Luda has led this team to have a lot more of a motivated trio to push forward for this FNCS. They have uncontested Lazy, which was Speedy and Muz's drop from last FNCS, so much experience on how to play this drop when it comes to stacked lobbies as well. So I have really, really high hopes for them. Alright guys, that does it for another video. There's so many more teams I want to talk about, and that's why I'm going to do another video closer to FNCS when I have a full consolidated drop spot of where everyone's going, and I can really run you through the teams on OCE, because as much as I talk about heats not being as seriously because OCE is a smaller region, when it comes to grand finals, these games are going to be an insanely high caliber. These players are pretty much playing out of passion at this point. OCE is only getting a $90,000 prize pool, but you still have the best of the best in what I think is a very top heavy region who are going to go at it. So I'm going to do another video breaking down some of the other teams you maybe haven't heard of, but I wanted to address today and just cover the big storylines that are developing and wait until all these drop spot dramas kind of slow down, because Volx's team moving has caused a ripple effect that's kind of changing all the major drop spots. So in a few days that'll settle down and I'll have another video like I'm going to do for NA East, NA West, and EU as well. I might try to reach out to a few people in the community and see if I can do a video that covers every single region, but as you guys know, Brazil, Middle East, Asia, the time zone doesn't suit me and it's really hard for me to follow, and I don't like to make these videos unless I completely know what I'm talking about. If you made it this far though and you liked the video, please chuck a like on it. Let me know in the comment section down below who you're most looking out for in OCE. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. It would mean the world to me. Thank you so much for your support, and I'll see you in the next one.